Hello friends, today we will explore how to create this wonderful fake 3D animation in After Effects. So let's not wait any longer and jump straight into After Effects. We'll start by creating a new composition sized 3840x2160, which is 4K. Set the frame rate to 30 and the duration to 10 seconds. First, we need to create our cube. Right click to create a new shape, add a rectangle and a stroke with a size of 2 pixels. Let's rename it to 0.1 for clarity and set the size to 1000 pixels. Let's make it 3D. And we will change it. The render package must have Classic 3D enabled. Here, we select Custom View 1 so that we can see how our cube will look. We duplicate this layer. Set the anchor point to the top. Open rotation by pressing R and change the value to 90. Duplicate layer 0.1 again, set the anchor point to the left, and similarly change its rotation to the same value for the next side. Anchor point to the right. And here the value will be 90. And once again for the bottom side, anchor point string. And the value will be 90 for X. And for the last face, let's duplicate the last face. We will set the value not to rotation, but to position 1000, because the size of our cube is 1000. This means we need to move it back by 1000 pixels. We will save the project just in case. Next, we will proceed to create our shape inside. For this, we will create an ellipse and add some fill to it. Let's set the size to 300, which I think will be okay. Maybe 250. And we will rename it to circle 0.1. And for the position, we will effectively bring it to life with a wiggle effect. Let's set the value to approximately 0.5 for starters, and the distance of movement it will move should be around 100. I want it to be a bit slower, like this approximately. Let's change the color to something a bit more visually appealing. We will duplicate this shape several times. Let's say around 6 times. And we will have an animation of 6 randomly generated shapes. We will change each one to a slightly different color and add a blur effect of approximately 150 to each shape. Maybe that is essentially too much. 100. We copy and paste all the following shapes. And here we have the resulting animation. And we create one more additional shape. Ellipse fill with a size of approximately 350, so that our animation fits just about into this shape. And we make all these shapes trackmate to our main circle. And here we have the animation. We simply separate all these shapes, press Ctrl+Shift+C and add it to pre-compose. Simply duplicate it, Place it carefully at the bottom and also add a blur with a value of 200. And we set the opacity. We initially set the value to 50, which is done to add a bit of glow, ultimately resulting in a cool and visually appealing animation. Next, we bind this glow effect to our first circle. And here, we also introduce a wiggle effect to the position, ensuring that we have a slight and dynamic movement. And what do we do next? Next, we enable our custom view on the active camera, turn on our shapes, that is our cube, and create a null object that should be at the center of the composition. We will call it PR1, make it 3D, and bind our layers to this null object. Then we create basic animation for rotation. To do this, press R, set X, Z keyframes, move to the first second. Oh, it seems we completely overlooked the step where we need to place our null object inside the scene. To accomplish this task, we begin by setting the position value to 500. Initially, we must unbind the object, which allows us to adjust its settings freely. After unbinding, we set the position value to 500 once more to ensure accuracy. Following this, we proceed to rebind our shapes, which is a crucial step in the process. With everything correctly set up, we are now ready to animate. This setup allows us to create a smooth and seamless animation, bringing our project to life with dynamic movement and creativity. And the first keyframes will be just regular, linear ones, while for the second we set a value, and for the third, a value of 90. And here is what we will get. But we see that our shape seems to be flying in front of our cube, while we need it to be behind. More precisely inside. We look at which edges intersect it here. This one. And now it all looks like it's a kind of fake 3D inside. And next we need to create a transition for the second animation so that during the animation the edges will change. We just need to duplicate them and move them to another place, to a different position on our timeline. Now I'll show you how to do this. At the moment of the highest speed of our animation, we cut, or rather, slice our layers, and then we see which ones will intersect with our shape and which ones will not. Now we very carefully and gently throw this one to the bottom. Let's definitely turn off the chapter so it's somewhat easier to see. This is perhaps due to our blur. Our corners are just slightly visible. Maybe we need to reduce the blur a little bit more. You see? And I will probably add one more shape or move it a little so that the entire area of our circle is indeed completely filled. And I will increase the size. Still, the blur needs to be added back. Maybe then I will add another circle, which will be black here, and I will also add blur to it, and I will bind it with a mask, or rather, I will make it alpha made 2. Here it is. It has become better. And here I don't like that the animation stops. Let's go to the animation graphs. Here we will select keyframe velocity, continuous, and let's raise this a little bit, like this. And now it should be good. Too much. No, let's return it. I don't like something about it. So it almost doesn't stop, just a tiny little pause. Let it be like this. And now let's effectively achieve such a blur effect in order to enhance the visual quality. To do this, we will duplicate our main face and rename it to 0.1 adjustment. Let's add a fill to it, and it doesn't matter which one. And we'll include this little icon, and we will add a blur with a value, for example 100. And here is what we get. Even more, let's make it 200. Here is what we have. It looks like a glass mirror effect. And let's do something similar for our back face. We'll duplicate it to the back face in a similar manner by creating a duplicate of the existing face. Well, 6. And for example, let's add a gradient, or rather let's add our circles instead of a gradient. And we will create a cool effect for this edge. I'll show you now. stylize, stylize, mosaic. We will also include this effect. And I forgot to add fill. And it will turn out something this. And let's also add a mirror effect to this face. We will duplicate this layer as well. Let's rename it. To avoid getting lost, let's add fill, turn on this icon, and add Gaussian Blur with a value of 200. Let's do this better for this facet as well. It's with us. Or better for the top one, I don't really like this one. Oh, not for that one, I'll erase it. Let's take this edge, make a duplicate of it, and then proceed to rename the duplicated edge to fill and blur. This process involves creating an exact copy of the original edge, ensuring that all properties are retained, and then assigning it a new name that reflects its function, which is to fill and blur the designated area. You can then slightly adjust the animation for effect. And this also needs to be done for the first part. We add fill by default, meaning of blur. $200, and we move it to the top, to our gray area, just like that. And we can create a more interesting background. And I want to change the colors a little. And here is what we have. Friends, thank you for watching. That's all for today. And as always, see you next time.